I hope you can see this beautiful bronze statue behind me called the Norwegian Lady. And there's a lot of history to the Norwegian Lady. Stay tuned, I'm going to tell you all about it. This story begins in 1891 with a ship called the Dictator that was homeported in Moss, Norway. The Dictator was actually scheduled to take a load of lumber from Pensacola, Florida to England. But unfortunately, when it rounded the corner of Florida and came up the coast, it ran into a hurricane. The hurricane was a major hurricane, and back in 1891, they didn't have the Weather Channel to tell them that a hurricane was coming. So in the end, they were lashed with waves and surf and weather and wind. They lost 2 lifeboats, and they had damage to the ship. And they decided, we have got to get this repaired. During the hurricane, they decided the closest port they could get to was Hampton Roads. But unfortunately, they didn't know the exact position because of all the storms and all. They couldn't see the sky. They couldn't see the stars. They didn't know exactly where that. And they ended up running aground at Virginia Beach. The life-saving stations at Virginia Beach immediately received distress calls from the Dictator. They immediately went to the shore and tried to rescue the men off the ship. Now, they first tried to shoot a line off to the ship, but with the waves and the wind, it was abandoned. They were trying to shoot it out there to get a line across so they could use a breeches buoy. Now, what a breeches buoy is, I didn't know. I looked it up. This is what it is. Here's a picture showing what it would look like if you actually got it working. What is a line, and it's like a little hangar that people would get into, and they could use a pulley system to get the people off the ship. And here's another picture showing how it would actually work. Now, in the beginning, that failed. So what they did on the ship, they had 1 lifeboat left, so they loaded some of the crew in that boat, and they actually made it to shore. And after they made it to shore, the ship started breaking apart. It was not getting any better. So they ended up trying to use the breeches buoy again, but this time with success. They actually saved some of the crew members with the breeches buoy. Now, Captain Jorgensen had his wife and son on board, and as a last rescuing experiment, he decided to make a raft out of the accommodation ladder. He put a life vest on Mrs. Jorgensen, and he put one on himself and lashed his son to his chest. Unfortunately, a wave came up and knocked him overboard. When Mr. Jorgensen surfaced, his son was gone, unfortunately. And in the end, Mr. Jorgensen actually lost consciousness in the waves and ended up washing ashore, but survived. But unfortunately, his wife and some of the other crew members did not. In the end, 9 crew men were rescued, in addition to Captain Jorgensen. Unfortunately, Mrs. Jorgensen, her son Carl, and 5 of the crew perished. The bodies were buried in Norfolk. Back during that time, they used to put large wooden figureheads on the front of these vessels. And the next day after this happened, the large figurehead actually washed up on the shore. And Virginia Beach displayed that figurehead on the shore in remembrance of the Dictator. It became a well-known and beloved landmark in Virginia Beach, and it stood there for 62 years until 1953 when it was destroyed by Hurricane Barbara, which caused heavy damage in Virginia. The people of Virginia Beach did not forget about that fateful day when the lives were lost on the Dictator, and decided they wanted to replace the head that they had that was destroyed during a hurricane with some other memorial. So Moss, Norway heard about Virginia Beach wanting to put another figurehead up, and they decided to build 2 bronze statues of the Norwegian Lady. They would place one in Moss, Norway, and give her their sister city, Virginia Beach, Virginia, the other one to place at the oceanfront in memorial of the people that lost their lives on the Dictator. Since that time, there has been numerous official and unofficial visits between Virginia Beach and Moss, Norway. They have truly become sister cities. Now, every year on the anniversary of that fateful day, there is a service held there at the Norwegian Lady, and flowers are placed on the lady. All right, here's a picture of the Norwegian Lady standing in Moss, Norway. As you can see, they got the American flag flying right over the Norwegian Lady in Moss, Norway. All right, for those of you who may never make it to Virginia Beach, I'm going to show you some of the exhibits of the Norwegian Lady. Below the Norwegian Lady, it's got this right here. The people of Moss, Norway have sent me to commemorate Norwegian and American seamen who perished together when the Norwegian bark Dictator of Moss was wrecked off these shores on March 27th, 1891. And then it lists some of the donors over Moss, Norway that actually paid to make these brass statues. Now, and right below it on the front, right below the Norwegian Lady, it says, "I am the Norwegian Lady. I stand here as my sister before me to wish all men of the sea safe return home." Pretty cool. On each side of the Norwegian Lady, there's a very beautiful flower garden there and 2 benches and a nice plaque on each side. On one side, it tells a story about Virginia Beach and Moss, Norway being sister cities and the whole history behind it. On the other side, it's got another plaque that tells the entire story of what happened on that fateful day in March in 1891 when some of the crew perished and the whole effort that went on by the life-saving station here in Virginia Beach. That was just an amazing story, and I thought I'd want to share with y'all as much as I enjoyed hearing about it. And also, it's the last look at the Norwegian Lady looking over our men at sea. Check her out. Thank you, Norwegian Lady. Keep an eye out for them. Till the next time.